Deep in the highland forest of Ratanakiri, Chanti Dam is looking for a mining site. Her local contacts tell her it was established in violation of Cambodia's land law. She knows a company is exploring for iron ore. 24,000 acres of forest land is under threat. Along the way, Chanti finds signs of exploration. Discarded core samples at a sacred religious site, and heavy equipment broken down on the muddy road. Then she finds it, a construction site, possibly for an ore processing facility.
I brought you here because this is an important place for traditional agriculture and a sacred forest for indigenous people. This place is becoming a mining site, and it will affect their culture and livelihood.
Chanti is concerned that minority indigenous people in the highlands here are losing their lands to mining companies and large plantations without their consent or any compensation.
I'm quite worried for indigenous people because many of them don't go to school and they totally depend on the forest and land for their livelihood. They don't know much about laws and government regulations, so they are afraid to advocate. Today, they have little land to make their living, and if they don't have these land and natural resources, they will be forced to go and find work elsewhere. They will lose their indigenous culture, and it will be very hard for them to integrate into mainstream Cambodian society.
Chanti is the director of the Highlander Association, a group that teaches indigenous people at risk of losing their lands about their basic human rights under international and Cambodian laws.
The law says no authority can take away ancestral land from an indigenous community. Only indigenous communities have the right to manage indigenous lands.
As their land rights are transferred to companies in violation of Cambodia's land law, indigenous people suffer. They lose their territory, their agricultural areas, and valuable forest resources. Chanti is outraged by these injustices. As an indigenous Tumpun person herself, she shares the concerns of indigenous communities affected by these mining projects. She travels to many remote communities, sometimes by boat up the Sesan River, where another local community is under threat of a mining concession.
If they start mining operations in the mountains, this water will be affected. People drink this very water. They catch fish and make their living on natural resources around the river. We are worried that if they start mining operations, firstly, our community won't be able to use this water anymore because of the pollution. Second, the fish that we're catching will be extinct.
Chanti and the Highlander Association are building a network of trained leaders who can help communities defend their rights to communal land. This work is dangerous. Chanti has been warned on several occasions that armed men have come to her home looking for her. So far, she has avoided them. Despite these threats, her work continues.
We are not hopeless. We are finding different ways to convey messages directly from the affected communities to the government and international community. If indigenous people are healthy, educated, and they prosper, then that would hasten the development process of this country. If they are suffering through the loss of livelihood and culture, this will affect Cambodia. We hope that decision makers will understand that indigenous people are also citizens of this nation. And one of my key strategies is to allow the affected communities to speak for themselves. Let them tell the story. I want to empower the affected people to become their own problem solvers.
Some communities vow to fight until their last breath to protect their land and livelihood. But Chanti doesn't see violence as a viable solution. She works to help them use peaceful means to solve problems. Oxfam is supporting indigenous peoples' organizations that are educating communities to defend their rights to sustainable use of land and natural resources, and help them to negotiate with companies and the government.